Please welcome President and CEO at Wendy's Quality Supply Chain Co-op, Pete Sorkin.
Good morning. My name is Pete Sorkin. I'm the President and CEO of QSCC. For those of you who don't know, it stands for Quality Supply Chain Co-op. We are the supply chain provider for all of Wendy's internationally. Now, why are we here today? Well, as you can tell by the numbers on the screen, we run a relatively complex supply chain. A couple things that kind of go into that drive incremental complexity is that when we make your cheeseburger, it's made with fresh, never frozen North American ground beef. It provides a little bit of a shelf life challenge. The other thing we do, our Frosties have actual milk in them. That's a shelf life problem as well. So that drives a little bit more complexity into our supply chain than some of our competitors. The other thing that you should know about the food service supply chain world is this, is that for the last 30 or 40 years, the answer to any problem has simply been this: buy more. Just put more in inventory. And it's gotten to the point in our industry in which the average company somehow, some way, has gotten to the point where they believe that to service a $9 combo meal, we have to have 30 days of inventory of any one thing setting across our entire network. That $9 meal means I'm carrying $370 million in ingredients somewhere in North America. That seems like a lot of money. Our industry has gotten so challenged. Our margins have shrunk. We've got labor costs. Continuing to carry inventory at these type numbers simply isn't possible. So we sat about to make a change. And that leads us to where we are today. We met with all kinds of companies, and one of those companies was Palantir. Palantir came to us, and they actually came back to us and said, okay, what do you use today to make decisions? And we hadn't really thought about it that way. And after they answered that, we said, well, okay, here's what we use, here's what we do. And their answer was simply this: well, let's start there. That was a revolutionary moment for us. To that point, everyone told us all of the reasons we couldn't do what we wanted to do. Your data is too terrible. It's all over the place. It's in Excel spreadsheets. It's on laptops. The moment that Palantir said yes, it was one of those times we're like, wait a minute, we're not crazy. We can actually do this. So we're going to show you what we've been working on and what we've been building. Here's a current promotion that we're in. As you can see on the left, those are actual orders from our 6,500 restaurants coming in. This is for Frosty, vanilla, and chocolate, as well as Thin Mints cookie syrup from the Girl Scouts of America promotion that we're currently in. And as you can see, those orders come in, the system processes them, as long as there's not a problem. But lo and behold, as you can tell at the top line, there seems to be a problem. We seem to have an issue with Thin Mint sauce in our Oregon distribution center. So let's take a look at our Oregon distribution center. Well, we've got 11 cases on hand. We've got 70 on order. And by the looks of this, the good news is we have 4 days of supply in the entire system. So we've got plenty. It's just not in the right place. So let's go in and start to take a look to figure out what exactly we can do. Immediately, the system recognizes, okay, here's what you should do. Cancel or reduce orders to the stores that are getting deliveries tonight out of Oregon. Change the rule to where if they have more than 3 days of inventory, cut orders. And as you can tell, those are specific stores: Clifton, Homestead, Bozeman. Those are stores serviced out of that DC. So the system is looking at each one of their inventories individually and trying to figure out, okay, well, if they cut orders, can they make it to the next time they get a truck, which is going to be 3 to 4 days later? Well, okay, we took a look at that. Now let's take a look at another solution. Let's say we wanted to bring in syrup from another distribution center. Let's look at Vancouver. Well, we could bring it out of our Vancouver distribution center. We could also look at Sacramento. We've got some spare capacity there, so we could bring it out of either one of those DCs. But you know, that's a whole lot more complicated than what we need to be. Why not just take what the system's telling us to do? So we go in here, we click execute. The system then comes in, we change the rule, 3 days of inventory. Lo and behold, it should cut orders. It cuts the orders, and as you can see, all of these are every one of our stores that it now cuts the orders to. So if it had more than enough days, it cuts the order to that store. In the case of Bozeman, Montana, they didn't have enough days, but they ordered 5 cases, but they still gave them 2. So the system was smart enough to recognize who could get through and who couldn't. But then the system also noticed another problem. We're 10,200 cases short of syrup across the entire network. That's a real problem. So the system is now flagging an additional inventory problem that we need to go look into. So let's go take a look and figure out what kind of actions we need to fix that problem. So here's our supplier. Here's all the distribution points that that supplier ships from, and immediately it tells us there's 8,300 cases available, you're 10,200 cases short, and most importantly, hey dummy, you need to order 3,500 cases right now. You got to get that done right now. The system then allows us to go look at each individual distribution point for those cases and say, okay, for the case of Oregon, they're serviced out of Utah. Well, how many cases does Utah have, and how bad is that situation? Well, it shows here they're negative 110 cases. So now I can come down and I can take a look at, here is what our production graph starts to look like. As you can clearly tell, this is what we have, this is what it would take, and on the 17th of March, we go negative on inventory. So now we're starting to build out what has to happen, when does it have to happen by, and how often it has to happen, and down to the DC level. So these are the DCs that they actually ship from. So let's get into production. Looks like I need to make 5,800 cases pretty quick. I've got 3,000 cases worth of raw material on hand, and I'm short 2,800 cases of inventory to actually go make the product. So that the model actually models out when we have to order raw materials, when we have to get into production, when we have to ship to the DC, and then when that DC has to ship to our DC. Then it breaks it down to an even simpler model. Here are the 10 steps that are going to happen to keep you in supply. And that's what these lower things are. So you can go through everything from production to which DC ships to what DC. These are the things that need to happen. So we've now looked at this. We know the timeline. We know we've got to go ahead and get raw materials on order. We know we've got to get production scheduled. So we start to look at all this and we go, okay, we need to do that, but let's not forget. We need to order 3,500 cases immediately. So we go back up to the top. We go to the execute recommended orders. We close up our inventory. We know what that is. Execute the order. And it immediately starts to place all those orders. All of those orders then roll over to placed. The system updates itself. All the orders are placed. All the production starts to go in. Now we come down to the bottom and we say, okay, go. Let's order the raw materials. Let's put all of that in motion. Execute, done. With any luck, the system's balanced. Let's see if it did what it did. System's balanced. Now, that took me 5 minutes. A year ago, that would have taken us 15 people all day, calling distribution centers, manufacturing points, checking with individual restaurants to make sure they were okay or not okay. It would have taken us all day. And then the beauty of it is we would have come in the next day and done the exact same thing. The exact same thing again. And the frustrating part of that is, as people do this work, it's maddening because you don't have enough information at your fingertips to actually make the right decision. You know what you're doing is not correct because the human mind can't contemplate the amount of scenarios that you need to think through to solve the problem correctly. So we've kind of looked at this, and now all of a sudden, we've not only fixed our inventory problem, we've now taken a problem that would go on for weeks and days and fixed it in 5 minutes, making our people incredibly efficient. Nobody likes to do a job in which they know they can't do it right. This gives them the tool to do it and do it quickly and efficiently. Next, the other thing we've done is we've changed the agility of our entire company. Think about that for a moment. If a promotion is not working, how quick can we get out of it? How fast can we stop promotion? Let's say there's a regional preference to a flavor. I want to ship out of New York into the Midwest. We start to move stuff around far quicker. Now all of a sudden, the agility of my supply chain allows us to make better and quicker marketing decisions based on what's working and what's not working and mitigating risk at the same exact time. So that's our story. That's what we're using Palantir with. A huge call out to the Palantir team who believed in us and who works with us every day. Thank you guys so much for that and giving us the opportunity to be here today. Most important thing today is this. To celebrate our partnership, all of you that are here, join us for a vanilla and chocolate frosty in the back at break. I knew. For those of you on the live streams, please stay on for a special announcement. Thank you.